Hi, in part 3 and the last of this series of writing discussion of results, let me tell you the steps on how to write discussion. At the end of this session, you should be able to 1. Integrate your own results to increase understanding of the research problem. 2. Compare your own results with other findings to increase understanding of the research problem. And 3. To produce a good discussion of results in a research report, be it a journal paper, thesis, or final year project report. Let's start with the purpose of discussion, because without knowing the purpose, we cannot produce a good discussion. So remember, purpose of the discussion is not to describe the results in our study. That is the result section. The purpose of the discussion is to interpret and describe the significance of the findings. And it must be in the context of what is already known about the research problem. That means we are very aware of other people's findings on the research problem. When we bring together our results and other people's findings, we are able to explain the research problem better. We bring new knowledge to the field, and that's very important for any research. So let's now go into the steps of how to write a good discussion of results. This comes from my experience of writing 300 over papers of different sorts, and through many trials and errors, and through the feedback of reviewers who may have rejected my papers, but have all contributed to my knowledge and experience in writing discussion of results. The rules of writing discussion. First, let's look within our study. When we live in an igloo in the Arctic, and this is our life inside the igloo, we know only our family, and we are happy within our family. Okay, that is the starting point, but we need to think critically about our results to be able to connect them, because we would have collected different kinds of results in accordance to the different objectives of the study. They cannot remain separate. They have to be taken together so that we can show how all these results add up to helping us to understand the research problem, a topic better. So when we think about our results, we need to identify 2 or 3 results that are worth discussing. Okay, we have done that. Now we can look outside of our study. You know, we are not the only igloo in the Arctic. There are many other igloos, and we need to know how their lives are like, because they are also our neighbors around there. When we are in need of help, we will go to them. So in the context of the research, we have our results. Now we need to compare them with similar results elsewhere, the related studies, because we all are studying the same research problem or topic. We all are trying to understand it better with certain practical or theoretical significance, which varies according to what we are studying. So we not only look within our study, we have to look outside of our study. Now, first step, we identify results worth discussing. I'll use my paper here as an example on the framing of 1MDB. Okay, one result worth discussing is this. Firstly, there is a strong episodic orientation in the news articles of both newspapers analyzed. Strong episodic orientation, that means the news are reporting events, the WH questions, they answer the WH questions. So what does it mean? Well, it means that the journalists or the newspapers are very careful in handling controversial issues, because 1MDB involves high-ranking politicians and government officers. And newspapers are also very aware of legislations that regulate press freedom. All right, we ask, why? Well, the other researchers also find a high percentage of episodic frames in corruption news. That means we are trying to compare our results. We need to be guided by this question: was the result expected or not? Did other people also find this? And if yes, what does it mean? Well, yes, other researchers also found episodic focus when they study political corruption. Now, what does it mean? It means that the news is being reported in isolation. And so what now? Well, there is a consequence. So now we are using this citation to explain our results. Don't leave it here just because we have cited 2 studies. We have done our part to cite and show that it looks like a discussion and that is the end. No. So we know that other people also found high episodic focus. Come back to this. Pick up on the idea of reporting events in isolation and come back to the results. So I don't use the word in isolation anymore. I use the word disconnect. Well, the impact of this is this. People see 1MDB news as isolated events and one isolated event after the other. They do not see the bigger connection, and readers could be blinded to the ramifying impacts of various sorts and think that it does not affect people apart from those who are directly involved in 1MDB. So this is the impact after I have compared with other researchers who have also found high episodic focus. But that's not the end, you know. I have found so far, and then I go and look now at the Malaysian news framing. You have noticed that the studies just now that are cited are from overseas. Now I come back to Malaysia. They may not have studied 1MDB, but they have studied other corruption and controversial issues. So let's compare. So you see that I go back and forth between my results and other people's results. It doesn't just end because I have cited somebody and shown that I have done a discussion. You must remember, my aim is to understand why is there such a high episodic focus and what is the impact of it on this case of 1MDB and on the larger scale in terms of corruption cases or financial scandals. What does it mean in terms of this kind of coverage? Okay, so I have finished one set of results, high episodic focus. I need to let you know that this is actually connected to another set of results I have. The opposite of episodic articles are thematic articles, more like commentaries or documentaries, where the journalists offer background information to refresh people's memory, to offer analysis of the issue, and so on. So we bring in other sets of results, our own results within the study. So why are there so few thematic articles? Well, thematic articles take time and effort to write. There is certain research involved and analysis involved. And also, inevitably, it will show the stance of the journalist and the newspaper, which both parties may not want to do. So when I bring in thematic articles and do more comparisons with other people's results on thematic articles in their news analysis, I have another way of explaining the high percentage of episodic articles in my study. So I have connected my results, but this is only on episodic versus thematic framing. This is not the end yet. It's only one result being discussed and there is more. So you repeat the steps for the second point of discussion and the third point if you have, or the fourth point. Okay, finally, we use our results and other people's findings to shed light on the research problem. Return to the bigger picture. We don't just live in our own igloo and be happy with our family. We don't just look at human beings living in igloos. We share the ecosystem with penguins. They also have a life there. The Arctic belongs to us and the animals. Return to the bigger picture, and that is the research problem. So I did this in this study on 1MDB framing. Let me read this to you. The study also uncovered subtle strategies used by the newspapers in reporting a financial cum political scandal involving high-ranking politicians by reducing thematic articles and focusing on superficial information for WH questions in episodic articles, but avoiding the why question and negative adjectives to refrain from making evaluative judgments. So I have this part to add to the knowledge in the field about framing of controversial articles, controversial issues, a financial scandal that has been politicized. Always remember, ultimately, we use our results and other people's results to explain the research problem or topic better, because This is the purpose of research. There is less research in a particular area, which is why it is less understood. We now have found a little bit of extra information, and we can explain certain angles better. And if you can uncover new gaps of knowledge for research, that's good. That's good. And you suggest it in areas for future research. So to conclude, in order to write a good discussion, here are some reminders. Number one, do not merely restate the results. It is a discussion, it is not a repeat. And we don't consider rewriting the results as a form of discussion. Number two, don't cite and leave the information alone. You need to use the information to explain the research problem and bring new insights to the topic. And three, do not overinterpret the results. I know I've been asking you to explain the meaning of the results, the meaning, yes, but within what the results can offer, not too far away. And lastly, number four, remember whatever we have brought in for discussion should have been brought up earlier in the introduction or literature review sections. It cannot just spring forth. Otherwise, we wonder whether you have done a good review to find out what is really known about the topic before you started the study. I hope you have learned from my talk here, but also learned from other well-written journal papers. This is how I have learned, and I hope you will also improve in your writing of research papers in the same way. Thank you.